name is Allie and welcome to my channel. And today I'm going to be talking about some books that have really good fat or plus size representation. So I was looking on YouTube and I was trying to find some videos similar to this one and I couldn't really find anything. And then I put out a post on Twitter asking if anyone else had made a video like this, and I haven't really got any responses back or any recommendations for videos, so I figured that this might be a good video to make because there kind of seems to be a missing spot for this kind of video. So through this year and last year, I've read some really good books with fat or plus size representation, and there are also some books that are on my shelf that you might see behind me that also have fat representation in them, and I don't really want to add them until I've read them and decided if it's good or bad representation. So the first book we're going to start off with is Undead Girl Gang by Lily Anderson, and I love this book so much. If you're familiar with my videos, I did just recently do a lookbook video for the main character in this book, Mila Flores, and she is a fat main character and I absolutely love her and I totally identify with her. I could really relate to her and just like her personality and the way that she just kind of sees the world and experiences things. I really related to her. And I absolutely love her sense of style. It's very similar to mine. She wears like her jean jacket every day. She has her combat boots that she loves, and I also have a pair of combat boots that I absolutely love, and you see them in the video, so I'll link that video down below. And I just absolutely love this book so much. Like I've said in the past, if you love the movie Heathers, which I love the movie Heathers, you're going to really love this book as well because it's very similar. It has kind of the same sort of sense of humor, not as offensive as Heathers is, but it's in the same vein of humor. And I just absolutely love it so much, and I definitely recommend it. I know that, you know, Halloween is coming and it's almost over, so it's kind of hard to like put this into like the Halloween sort of recommendations, but I think you can read this all year round. It's really good, and I totally recommend this, not only for the fat representation, but just overall, it's just a good book. One of my most recent reads is also some really good plus size representation, and that is Amelie in Real Life by Janelle Milanes, and I love this book so much. I read this book in one sitting. It was just, it blew my mind. I did not want to put it down. It was so good. It totally reeled me in and it just kept me there, and I was so excited about this book, and I still am, because in this book Amelie is described as being more plus size and a lot bigger than just the people that are around her, and I just really enjoyed this book and watching Amelie grow into her confidence with her body and not having to change her body and not having, you know, because I hate when I see characters who are plus size or fat or whatever and they end up having to change their bodies in some way to become confident, but Amelie doesn't really need that. She just becomes confident on her own, and I love seeing her character progression, and I just love this representation. I think it's so good, and this book will have you hooked. I promise. It is so good. The next book on this list is kind of an oldie but a goodie, and I've talked about this book quite a bit on this channel because I love it so much, and that is Fairest by Gail Carson Levine. This is also the only non-contemporary book that I have on this list, and that's kind of an issue for me that I just want to take a little bit of time to talk about, and it really bothers me that the majority of fat representation is solely in contemporary. And like that's like the only space where fat people are allowed to exist. Like for some reason fat people can't exist in fantasies without them being disgusting or gluttonous or lazy or mean or whatever, and I hate that so much. I literally hate it because almost like there are so many fantasies that I've read that are just like mildly fat phobic or just kind of like low-key fat phobic, and I don't think that the authors are like noticing or like putting two and two together that like, hey, these cliches or these stereotypes that I'm talking about in my books are actually fat phobic and I probably shouldn't be using these. It's just, I don't think it really connects in their brain because it's like fat phobia is so deeply ingrained in our society that like when people are being fat phobic, they don't even realize it. Like they literally like, what? I didn't mean it that way. That wasn't what I was trying to say. And I totally get it, but we have to be better at like being able to identify fat phobia calling it out and not doing it again. So that's just like my little rant on fat phobia in fantasy novels. But this book, I read this book when I was in middle school and I needed this book so bad. I love this one. It has a fat main character. It's kind of like a Snow White retelling and I love it. It's from the author of Ella Enchanted. So if you like Ella Enchanted, if you like the movie, you're going to love this book. I think she does fantasy so well. She's one of the best fantasy writers that I've ever read from. And this book is just so good. I actually reread it, I think, what was it, this year or was it last year that I reread it? But I recently reread it and it held up just as good as I remember it being. And this book really like turns a lot of tropes on its head and uses a lot of like the fat character tropes to its advantage and not to be fat phobic. So I think this does a really good job at presenting fat representation, especially in a fantasy and especially in middle grade. I just love this book. It's one of my all-time favorite books and I want everyone to read it. It is so good. The next two books are from the same author and I love her for this, and that is both The Upside of Unrequited and Leah on the Offbeat, both by Becky Albertalli. So Becky Albertalli is one of my favorite contemporary writers and I love these books so much. Like literally Molly and Leah are the characters of my heart. They are two sides of me and I love them both equally and they are both wonderful representations of fat characters. I had to fix the lighting for a second. I think the lighting's still a little weird, but that's okay. I love this book. First Becky Albertalli book I ever read. I just was completely obsessed with her after this. And I love this book so much. This is about Molly and she has had a lot of crushes before, a lot of unrequited love, and she has never had a boyfriend. And I could so relate to this book, like hardcore relate to this because I've had so many crushes, unrequited love. Oh, it's just like I literally, oh my gosh, this is literally my life, except for I don't end up with a boyfriend.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
But that's okay, that's beside the point. But I did write a blog post about this book. I also wrote an entire review, so I can definitely link those down below. And I talk a lot about why some people don't really understand what it's like to have a lot of crushes and not really tell people about your feelings and feel like you're going to be shut down just because you're fat and all this other stuff. I like go all the way through it in that blog post and in that review, so I'm definitely gonna link those down below. And maybe one day I will do like an actual full-length video about this book and about like being a fat teenager and having crushes and falling in love and not having that love reciprocated. And yeah, I definitely need to talk about that because there seems to be, especially from thin people and thin reviewers, that they don't really understand what it's like to have like so many crushes and so many intense crushes but never say anything about it. So I think that that's really important to talk about in like a fat perspective of like what it's like to have a lot of unrequited crushes. So I love this book, so good. Molly's a legend. I love her so much. And she also works at a store that's similar to Anthropology, and I love that. She is so freaking aesthetic and she loves to bake. I love her so much. And then we have Leah, who is Simon's friend in Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda, and she gets her own spin-off book, and I read this book this year and I loved it so much. I also did a review video for this book that I will link down below. And holy moly, Leah is the fat bisexual icon that I have always wanted and deserved. She is awesome. I freaking love her so much. Her snark, her realness is just amazing to me and I love her. She is always speaking her mind and I really admire her for that. She's definitely kind of an unlikable character, and there's some things that she does that, you know, I don't exactly agree with, but just go watch my review for this book because you'll kind of understand a lot more of my thoughts and opinions on this book if you go watch that video. So I'm gonna link it down below. And the very last book that I have to talk about is one that I didn't exactly love as much as the other books, but I feel like has really good fat representation despite me not absolutely loving this book. And that book is Final Draft by Riley Redgate, and this cover is freaking gorgeous. I love it so much. And this book is about a girl, and she is in a creative writing class, and she likes to write about a lot of her like fantasy characters and fantasy worlds. And her old teacher really loves her work, but then she gets a new teacher, and this new teacher doesn't exactly love her work the same way that the old teacher did. So basically the main character, Layla, is fat, and I absolutely love this representation in this book. I didn't exactly love the book itself. It was a little too boring in my opinion, but I know a lot of other people love this book, and I can totally see why, because it definitely does have that kind of like introspective sort of feel to it, but it just wasn't really for me. Or maybe I just read it at the wrong time. Like I should have read it maybe now, I don't know. But I did really enjoy this book. It also has pansexual representation, so that's really good. And yeah, I think that this would be a great book to check out and try if you want to read it. It's very short, so it's not going to be a super long read. And I definitely like the fat representation in this book, so I definitely think it's worth a go. Alright, so those were all of the books with fat or plus size representation that I wanted to recommend to you guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and go follow my Instagram, Twitter, my blog, friend me on Goodreads, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!